and welcome back to the Ask Dr. Renee show here at blackdoctor.org. And of course, we have to do housekeeping first. Please share the broadcast. Sharing is caring. Share the broadcast on whatever platform you're watching on. Share it. And let us know where you're watching from. Also, if you have questions, type them in the comments. But today continues autism. Actually, I've been corrected. It's Autism Acceptance Month. A lot of people are trying to rebrand a little. And I like that term because we do need to be more accepting because it is so prevalent now in our community and in the world. So we are still celebrating autism this month. If you didn't see the show earlier this month, it was actually the first Thursday of the month. We had Mila from 702, whose son Zach is on the spectrum. He's 15. And then we had Dr. Tisa Johnson Hooper, who I believe is the bee's knees when it comes to autism. She runs the Autism Center in Detroit, Michigan at Henry Ford Health Systems. So I hope you saw it. If you didn't see it, go check it out. But please, please, please share the broadcast because we are going to continue with that this evening. So my guest tonight has been on before for Autism Awareness Month with Dr. Johnson Hooper and his dad. But I'm really excited to have him back because he has new announcements. Hey. Good evening, Ross.
Hello. How are you?
Great. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. No complaints. Thank you so much for having me back on. I really appreciate it.
No, I am so excited because I wanted to have you back on, period, because now he graduated college. So that was 2 years ago. He was a student at Hampton University. Mm-hmm. And now he is a graduate. So let's go from 2 years ago to now. So you graduated with what degree?
Bachelor of Arts in Journalism with an area of emphasis in liberal arts.
Okay. And you were on the Dean's List. Let's please tell all the information.
Dean's List every semester. I don't know, the Lord did it. I don't know how it happened, but it happened. So I'm just, I'm so glad that happened.
Right.
Every time I check my report card, I was like, really? But hey, the parents were happy, so I can't even complain.
That is awesome. I mean, shoot, I was never on the Dean's List, so.
No, trust, it was a miracle. I didn't even know. I was just trying to get by. I promise you.
So that is awesome. So you graduated from Hampton, and we'll take you back because not everyone watched your first episode, but you were diagnosed on the spectrum at what age?
2 or 3.
2 or 3 years old. And he literally didn't have language.
Yeah, nothing.
And we'll talk more about this lovely podcast, but I learned even more on that. But they said he had 2 words, no way. And so for him to go from that to this, and I think it's still amazing. Ross went to an immersion school where he was speaking Spanish. So
that was
to learning Spanish too.
That was all my mom. She came up with that brilliant idea to, you know what, my baby can barely speak English right now, but I think he can tackle Spanish. I think that's a good idea.
I'm telling you, it's all about advocacy to me. And your mother and father, they advocated for you, and that is why you are where you are. So the other really amazing thing about Ross, and the other reason why I really wanted to have him on, is that he is now dusting his chops off and becoming a stand-up comedian. And I will tell you from the videos that I've seen, and actually I did see you in person one time, because remember you did a little bit years ago when we met, when it was George Wallace was at the show at Mixtape Comedy.
It's crazy because he was just there recently, maybe like a month ago. Yeah. It's crazy to see him again. But I remember that day like long time ago.
Right. Very long time ago. But you did a little bit. And
I was super young, so I really don't count that. That was just me just goofing off. But yeah, since then I've been taking it pretty seriously.
Yeah, and I've seen some videos though that people have shared though, and he's funny. And your father will tell you, I really don't like stand-up. I only go because he's like, well, Renee, I'm here. So his dad is like my big brother. And so I'm like, oh, you're in town. I got to go. I'm coming. And so because of him, I've gone to more shows than I ever probably would have ever gone in my life. But I'm just like, we went to stand up a lot in college, and I just was like, I'm over it. But because of him, and then Lonnie Love, people that, London Brown, I met because of your dad. And so
Yeah.
I've been to his, London opened for Chris Tucker. So I went to see London, and, and I got to meet Chris and stuff. But that's why I've been to so many comedy shows. And I'm really like, But like I said, it takes a lot to make me laugh. But he's funny. I will tell you, he's funny. So I think it's so amazing, because when you think about people on the spectrum, their cues are usually off. But I was like, no, he is spot on. Like,
Yeah.
I was like, timing is great. So I am excited for you to see where that goes. You have moved to New York City.
Yes, I am New York based now. Moved there a couple months ago in September. So I've just been doing the New York circuit and just going to all the clubs, meeting amazing comedians, amazing people, just networking and just, figuring out and having fun. That's what it's all about. I just feel like when I finished college, I told myself that I wanted to do something different. Like, I just didn't want to be at home, after college. I feel like that's what everybody does. I was like, I want to switch it up a little bit. So, and
And so
New York is
the big deal I have to tell everyone is that he was based in LA. That's where he was born and raised.
yeah,
So he has literally went across the country.
yeah. It's just crazy. Like, but my mom's from New York, so I kind of just felt like, I could figure it out. But,
And
when
it's
I
so
first get
vastly different than California.
oh, 100%, 100%. It's crazy over there. It's like I gotta come home sometimes just, to get a break. I'm just like, oh my goodness, this city is bananas. It's just like just chaos 24/7. But it does have its fun sides, like,
Yeah.
going to all the comedy clubs. That's the good part for me.
Yeah. And I'm sure there's a ton.
Yeah.
And,
Oh my God. Yeah.
yeah.
It's amazing. Very different from LA. Very.
Oh, so I didn't know LA didn't have a bunch, because I've seen the different documentaries about the different comedy circuits from back in the day and stuff. So I didn't know there wasn't a lot.
Yeah, compared to New York, LA doesn't have much, and it's a lot easier to get around in New York.
Okay.
So that's the best part. Like, you can go to this comedy club, get on the train, go there, go to Brooklyn, go to Queens, all that. So,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Now that I know, because LA is not for the faint at heart.
oh yeah, no, no, no.
What should be 20 minutes away might take you an hour to get to. And I'm just like, but
Yeah, it's the work.
only
Oh
10
my
miles.
goodness. Yeah, that's the one thing I like about the train. It gets you where you need to go, like that instantly.
Yeah. That's the way Chicago's the same.
Yeah,
And I'm sure you have you probably could write a whole session about just riding the train. Because it's
probably. Yeah,
so entertaining here in Chicago. I'm sure the train and the bus, I'm just like,
yeah. You just see crazy stuff 24/7. Crazy people too. Oh my God.
that is just too funny. But Ross had a podcast that was excellent. I listened to that one too. But this new one, I'm very excited. But the first episode, you interviewed the person that like completely, assisted you in speech and becoming the
Yeah.
person that you are, really. Miss Stephanie, and my goodness, I just listening to her. So please, everyone, you have to go to his link, follow him on Instagram, and then you can go and he has it on YouTube. It's on all of the podcast platforms, right?
Yeah, Apple and Spotify, YouTube, those
Yep.
three.
Keeping it raw.
Keeping it
And
raw.
it is, I mean, that episode was just so interesting, just to learn about how she was able to get you from just saying two words to all these other words, and and just going to school. And you went to regular school with everyone else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but before I went to like regular school, they did put me in those classes where with other autistic children, but the story goes that, the teachers and the specialists were like, he doesn't really need to be here. Like, he has all the skills. And so, but none of that could have happened without Miss Stenife. I call her Miss Stenife. That's what I used to call her back in the day.
I get it. I get
Back when I was trying to figure out language, I used to call her Miss Stenife and not Miss Stephanie. So it's happened sometimes. I switch back and forth.
Yeah.
So yeah, she's been an incredible help. So I couldn't none of that could have happened without her. So I'm eternally grateful for her, basically.
Yeah. And you know what? I wanted to ask you, and I never said it on the other show that I had, and I forgot. What does ABA stand for?
ABA?
Uh-huh. That was the kind of therapy she said.
Oh my goodness. I can't even remember it. Oh my God. Hold on. Oh, I gotta go look back. I
Yeah.
forgot. Oh my
Okay.
God. That conversation was so long. She
Right.
was because everything I haven't talked to her in so long. I see her here and there. She'll come to my high school graduation, my college graduation. But that was the first time in years we had a full conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So everything she was telling me was basically new to me as well. So I gotta figure that what ABA was. Oh my God, I'm so
But yeah,
embarrassed right
it's
now.
okay. It's a type of therapy though that is very common in this in the autism with anyone who's on the spectrum with these special learners. And she was saying that she did repetitive stuff to help you, and it was just so interesting to hear. And I know you said even you as yourself now you're doing research and learning more about it yourself, which I think
Yeah,
is really cool. Because I mean, just like me, I have asthma, and when I went to med school is when I learned so much more about it because I mean, I just had it. So and
mhm,
I worked, I breathed and I made sure I was living and we're good. But then in med school, I learned all of this is why I take this medicine and da da da. So I think that's cool that that's what you're doing.
exactly. That conversation was really important because I have been doing a lot of research, and it's crazy because we didn't even get into a lot of the other things that happened. We didn't talk about my best friend. His name is Zen Martin. He's Tisha Campbell's son. He's on the spectrum.
Yeah.
I think she talks about it a lot on
Yes, she does.
so yeah, she's a big advocate. So we really didn't even get into how we basically helped each other,
And he's
develop
in college,
communication
or
skills.
he's in college now, or
I
is
think
he?
he's in college. I think
Yeah,
he's almost done. He's
yeah,
almost
yeah.
done.
That's what I
Yeah,
thought.
but he's been my best friend for so long. So I think we're gonna do an episode together with Miss Stephanie again.
Oh, that's
Uh
awesome. That'll be awesome.
yeah, yeah, we talked about it the other day. I think it's important to get his perspective, but I was in New York, so it was
Yeah.
kind of tricky setting it up, but we're gonna get that episode done.
Okay.
And then yeah, just I think it's just because I didn't really know who to go to at the time. When I first found out I was on the spectrum, that I was kind of misinformed. So it kind of created a false narrative of who I thought I was.
Mm-hmm.
So now that I'm in New York, I'm just trying to figure stuff out. I was like, I think it's about time for me to do some research. I'm 20 years old, 23 years old, and really don't know that much about it. So I
Right.
was like, I think this episode with Miss Stephanie will put me in the right direction. And it was
Yeah.
good for me because I haven't talked to her in years, so it was good to see her.
That's awesome. And then you said that you worked with kids. So what were you doing in New York working with kids?
I was working at the YMCA. I was an after school counselor. So basically, after school, if the kids needed help with their homework, I was their guy. If they wanted to get beaten chess, I would whoop them in that too. If they wanted, just a little work. But yeah, we did activities, taught, did some socializing and all that. So yeah, it was
Yeah,
great. I loved it.
that's cool.
Mhm.
And I think that what else can we look forward to with keeping it raw? Because you told us about that one episode, that'll be really nice. But what other
Yeah,
things, I know you said you want to just keep it raw and authentic, and so
yeah. So for the people that don't know, Raw are actually my initials. My full name is Ross Andrew Watkins, but Raw to me is just keeping the conversation real, authentic, like you said. I just feel like right now there are a lot of podcasts where it's just a bunch of fluff. I would say just meaningless entertainment. But I kind of wanted to do something that was important. And I know you talked about earlier how I did have a podcast before I started this one, It was called Comedy and Conversations. Started it during quarantine, but I feel like that was just like a stepping stone to what I wanted to do. Like
Hmm.
I kind of just wanted. I never really like was into like podcast production like that. So that I feel like that was just me trying to figure it out. Like
Right.
how can I? Yeah. So I feel like now that I have a good grasp on it, like I even help somebody else with their podcast. I
Oh,
feel
wow.
like now, yeah, now is the time for me to you know, solidify myself. Like
Yeah.
now with the comedy, I wanted to do something else so I can like develop a social media presence that isn't all stand-up clips because I feel like now like it's the age where everybody puts their stand-up on social media. And I'm
Right.
not knocking that. I'll do it sometimes, but I just don't want all my material to be out there. Like I want people to actually like, experience it live
Right.
and not just on a phone. So I was like, what can I do that, people will notice me, but I won't have all my material out on the internet. I was like, okay, a podcast. That's feels like the good move. And I'm a journalism major too. So like
Right.
this is like my field. Like I love interviews. Like I love watching interviews. That's probably like one of my favorite things besides stand up. So what to expect next? Um of course, just interviews with a lot of interesting people. I don't want to do just like comedians because I feel like that's what a lot of comedians do, just interview different comedians. Like we can switch it up a little bit. Like I want to get other people from like different fields, like entertainment. Um, you know, with Miss Stephanie, autism was a big important part of my life. So I feel like that was the first episode, and I wanted her to be the first episode because I wanted people to know, oh, like, no, we're gonna do something different with this. We're gonna switch it up. Like,
Yeah.
we're not just gonna, keep it like it was in the first podcast. Like, we're gonna have a lot of unique voices on this
Awesome.
podcast. Yeah, so that's what to expect. I got some guests in mind. We're
Okay.
still doing it piece by piece.
Okay.
So just be I think the next guest is gonna be a good one. I'm excited for it. So just be on the lookout.
Will do, will do. And everyone, please make sure you subscribe to his channel because he needs to, like you said, he's boosting up his social media. So subscribe to his channel.
Yeah. I've been so bad with social media. I just feel like, okay, now it's time to, step my game up a little bit, figure it out.
But and I mean, you will over time. So
Yeah.
everyone, make sure you follow him and don't miss. Please go back and watch, listen, whatever on any platform. This episode, it was excellent, and it was just eye opening to hear her talk about from whence he came to where he is now. So, and I think for parents out there that have children that are on the spectrum, this could help you, give you hope, give you ideas, and give your children somebody to look up to that completely understands exactly where they are, because he might have been there one day himself. So I think it's important to, and I'm glad that you talked about it because you said how you didn't used to really talk about it. And honestly, if your father hadn't, it was like a Facebook post or something years ago, I would have no
Yeah.
idea. I was like, what?
Yeah, that's honestly how people really find out, honestly. It's like my mom and dad,
Yeah,
they post anything. Like you know, they just be posting like the most embarrassing stuff of me and my brother. I'm not saying what about the autism was embarrassing, but
right,
it's just like, that's how, people are usually introduced to it. Like,
right.
oh, snap. Like it's a long paragraph about how, we had to, struggle and, the challenges with Ross and all that. But yeah, that's how people are usually introduced to it because I don't speak on it
Hmm.
at all. So,
But yeah, I think that, and you went to a really great school. I know the Sierra Canyon only because now it's like everyone's talking because
yeah,
Ron's
it
son
got a
and
little too overhyped. It
right,
got way
like
too overhyped.
lots of very famous people seem to be graduating, their children graduating from the school. So I know that was your high school. And so I think that's really awesome that you were able to just, go right into school. And I think that, obviously the spectrum is called a spectrum because there's people in different places and, different spaces. But I'm glad that you had early intervention, which is so important. We've learned that from all of the, people I've spoken to and, kids that I've known. And so it's early intervention is the best thing ever because you can really kind of, I hate to say, but kind of retrain the brain. because the children are so young. Whereas if you have a later diagnosis, it's a little harder to get things going. But that is just great that your parents saw something and said something, and that their practitioners took care of it. Because unfortunately, in our community, a lot of times we say things, we said we saw this, and the doctor just sits there and, you know. But I'm glad that your mom and dad, the doctors were like, oh, and they, okay, and quickly your parents figured out the resources they needed to find, and I'm glad that now in 2024 there's so many more resources than there were back then. You know, like you guys talked about how the PEC system with the you had they had boards with pictures. Well, now you have an iPad.
Yeah, that's what I saw. So I saw that on the train.
Yeah, the technology is helping. You know, it helps everyone. And honestly, they I learned from my godmother. She was telling me how Stevie Wonder performed at Steve Jobs' funeral, because Stevie Wonder had really loved Steve Jobs because the Apple products are very accessible to people with different types of needs. So Stevie apparently uses them as a blind person, but you know, they've got special things for people who have, you know, hearing issues. They all sorts of accessibility. So that's really awesome that, you know, I'm not surprised at the iPad. And actually my dad, early in his rehab, the OT was using the iPad to help him because he had expressive aphasia. So he knew the words in his head, but what came out of his mouth never matched. So it would be a puzzle for us to try and figure out what he was trying to tell us. But he had therapy that he could do with the iPad, looking at pictures and, you know, and identifying and listening to them say what the pictures are so that he could get on the right track. And now he just, you know, he'll cuss you out in a heartbeat. But he speaks just fine.
I'm glad to hear it's working.
Yeah, everything worked. He's good. He's great. But yeah, so it's really cool that we have this technology to help us. But then having these resources available to families. You know, Miss Stephanie said she has her own company now, but there's places like that all over the country to help people, and hopefully maybe she could give us some resources and we can post those online at a later date.
Of course.
You know, a website or something that can help people, because I know that people are always trying to find resources to help them with their you know, child. And but I'm so excited for you. I can't wait to finally get to come to a live show. I'll have to see what you're doing when we come to New York in a few months and see, maybe then we can catch an open mic or something. I don't know. But yeah, but also you have to throw in there, you've kind of gotten to open and work with some pretty big name comedians though too, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's been crazy, you know. I've been doing some work with probably Mike Epps. That's been a big one, you know, opening for him. I've been opening for him since like maybe I was maybe 16 or 17.
Okay.
So that's been a blessing. I've been getting a lot of good experience with that. Donnell Rawlings too has been an incredible help to me. Like the whole Chappelle team has just showed me nothing but love, you know. Donnell has a new special on Netflix called A New Day right now that he filmed in New York in November. It was a part of the New York Comedy Festival. He was doing 3 days of shows, or 2 days. But the first day was when he was filming the actual special. And then the next day, he let me open for him. So that was great. That was a great experience. And also, like, Bill Bellamy has been a big help as well. You know, I opened for him in New Jersey at the Stress Factory Comedy Club. So yeah, I mean, you know, luckily I have a great support system, a great network of just people who just want to help me succeed. Like they just want to help me, you know, they know that I'm passionate about comedy. I want to, you know, be at their level hopefully one day. So they just want to make sure that I get there. So it's been fantastic.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Yeah. But everyone, please make sure you follow Ross, and notice it's called Autism Acceptance Month because we need to be accepting and we need to be able to have patience with people. Because I know there is, I think it's a bakery or something. I want to say it's in Jersey, but the father, his son has autism. And so he actually opened this bakery because he wanted to make sure his son had a job. And then subsequently, he hired a lot of other, kids that had special needs and stuff. So it's about being patient with people, giving people grace, and you may not understand, but you need to understand because it is so prevalent now, and you need to help your children to understand because it is so prevalent that they will encounter somebody in their classroom, and so they need to know how to be that person's friend and not, bully them or something. Be their friend. So I thank you for your time this afternoon, sir. I so appreciate it. And you guys, I will see you guys next week. Next week is my favorite month, Allergy Asthma Awareness Month.
Thank you so much.